Ooh, good morning. It is 27 degrees this morning, nice and cold, but guess what? This is good weather for making soup. I'm gonna teach you guys how to make a caldo de res today. It's also called beef stock soup. And we're gonna go to the store right now to get some produce, and then we're gonna go to the butcher, and I'm gonna show you guys how to get the meat. It's called a country rib bone in. You wanna get the marrow. So we're gonna show you guys how to do all that. Come on, let's go. Everybody, how many times have you been to the store and you just can't get the bag open? Let me show you a little secret. You get the bag, get your fingers, put it on some wet produce, the bag opens right up. Good to go. Everybody, if you want the best meat, you need to go to where the butchers are at. And I'm right here today at my local carnicera. We're at El Bajío, and we're coming here to get our country short rib. It's for our caldo today, and you want the bone in because the marrow is where all the flavor's at. So make sure you go to your butcher, and if your butcher doesn't have it, make sure you ask. They'll get it for you. They normally have it. It's a country rib bone in. It's the short rib bone in. I like to get about a third of it with the bone, and then the rest of it just the meat without the bone. That way you get these nice tender chunks. All right, guys, we're gonna go meet you in the kitchen next. So we're gonna go over my soup today. It's a real simple recipe. It gets down to simple basics. That's what my grandma taught me, my abuelita. She taught me when to cook, always make sure you keep it as simple as possible, as natural as possible. We want to cut the carbohydrates out. We want to cut our white carbs out. So there's a couple of options that I have in our soup today. So what we have here is, of course, we have our salt and pepper, which are we going to add towards the end. We have a corn, and we have some squash. Now, this is the fun one here. This is the chayote. The chayote is going to be the replacement for your potato. It gives the illusion of a potato, and it's kind of like the texture of a potato. It even looks like a potato, but it's a squash. It's called a chayote, and it's a really good thing to have in your soup to replace that starch from the potato. We already have some starches from that corn right here. We also have some carrots to add some sweetness and texture, and our cabbage. One of my favorite parts of the soup is the cabbage at the end, and of course cilantro. Now for our meat today, this is my source of protein. If you want to substitute it, you don't even have to put the meat in there. You can skip the meat. What we do is I do about a third of the meat or so, the country short rib, like I had said. And after your butcher's done cutting it, you get a nice chunk like this. They cut it in about an inch chunk. Tell him it's for the soup, and he's gonna give you a nice, good cut. So they used the blade, and they got in there nice and small so that we have our chunks in there. So about a third of it is the country rib bone in, and then the rest of it is just the big chunks of meat, because those are gonna get nice and tender in our pot. All right, everybody, my grandma taught me a lot of different things in the kitchen, and people have been asking me to do these cooking videos, and I'm gonna start showing you guys these videos, but remember, I don't do measurements too well. I'm all about seeing how I'm feeling that day. And I like salt, and so I gotta be careful on how much salt I put in there. You might wanna put less salt. I do use sea salt that has no iodine in it, so we wanna make sure that we're gonna use that. Tablespoon, big tablespoon, that'll do it. So we got the water about halfway full so that you have room for the vegetables that we're gonna add towards the end. I also have another pot on the side. This is something else that my grandma showed me. Anytime you're boiling anything, cooking beans, make sure you have some water on the side boiling so that once this one simmers down, you could transfer the water over. So you don't have to put cold water in there in case you didn't do your measurement correctly. Now I have this pretty down. So what I ended up doing is I bought extra vegetables and meat today because I'm gonna make a little bit extra. I'm making a side pot for my neighbor next door. He's not feeling too good right now, so I'm gonna take him some soup so he feels a little bit better. If you know somebody, makes them a little bit extra soup, and they're gonna really appreciate it. So on this side pot, I'm gonna maybe give it just about a half or so. Not too much salt. They don't like too much salt on there, so that way I can separate that. So if there's someone in the family that's like on a no salt diet, you make the side pot with this, no salt at all. Or if there's somebody that's vegetarian and they don't want the broth cooked with the meat, make them the side pot. All right, guys? So we're gonna let this cook for about an hour and a half, and then after an hour and a half, we're gonna put our vegetables in for the last 15 minutes. Now, I like my vegetables nice and crispy, so I only put them in the last 15 minutes so that they don't overcook. Now my wife, she likes the carrots in there a little bit longer so they're nice and soft, and the chayote. All right, guys, so we got this cooking for a little bit now. We brought it to a boil, and I brought it down from that boil so it simmers for the rest of the time. Now what you want to do is once you get that meat cooking, all the fat's going to come up. So you want to get right around the top of that pot, and you're going to pull that fat off. Now I like to get an old jar because you don't want to throw this away in the garbage can. You want to make sure that we keep our sewers clean from all this extra fat. So you're just going to go ahead and work it the best that you can, pulling it off right off the top. All right, guys? We're gonna let that finish cooking. Then we're gonna add our vegetables next in a little bit. All right, everybody, so it's been cooking for an hour and a half. We got the salt, pepper in there, and the meat boiling over. It's good to go. Now, at an hour and a half, we're gonna go ahead and put some of our vegetables. We're gonna go ahead and put our corn, our carrots, and our chayote. As you see, I like to cut things up nice in big chunks. That way it has a better consistency. I like it in big chunks when I'm cooking this kind of soup. So we're gonna put this in there because it takes a little bit longer than the squashes and the cabbage. All right, hour, 45 minutes, another 5 minutes of the last vegetables because I like these crispy. So we have our Italian squash, and we have our cilantro, and we have cabbage. So you're gonna go ahead and throw it all in that pot, put it in there for another 5, maybe 7 minutes, it's up to you, and then we're gonna be ready for some soup. Everybody, that's my simple way of cooking caldo de res. It all comes down to 2 basic things you guys wanna eat. Stay away from the carbohydrates and just focus on protein and greens. Now, me personally, my proteins today is the meat, the greens, vegetables, you know what I mean. So remember, produce, protein, repeat, repeat, repeat. And every now and then, if you want to eat something off that list, don't worry about it. Don't trip, because the majority of the time, you're eating healthy. It's a process. It's a lifestyle. I'm not asking you to go your whole life without eating carbohydrates, but you can stay close to eating as healthy as you can by sticking to those 2 basic rules: produce, protein. I'll see you guys next time.